Cold.
Yeah, look, my rifle's shrinking from the temperature.
They're both shrinking.
People say it doesn't get cold in Arizona, but when your rifle's turtling, it must be cold enough.
Thanks for tuning in to InRange, guys. We are out here doing another two-gun action challenge match, and we are both using the same rifles. These are Brownells Retro 605, Colt 605s.
Yeah, so Brownells has done another whiz-bang job of bringing another retro rifle to the market. But in this, guys, they brought out one that really didn't see any service. This was kind of an experiment.
Very much so. This was the first carbine version of the M16, and what Colt did for this experiment was literally just take an M16 and cut the barrel down to the front sight block. These had some trouble as original guns because they retained the full-length rifle gas system. So your gas port's way out here at the end. Yep. Which gave them some trouble.
Well, what's interesting about that is, you know, we saw later as the M16 and the AR-15 family was developed, different gas link systems happened.
Right.
And this would be one of the reasons that occurred, because this barrel used to be out here, right? And what that means is there's more time for gas to apply pressure through the tube to the bolt carrier group than there is now. So with the gas port this close to the muzzle, you're actually getting a lot of reduced gas pressure.
Right.
And what's happening is that unless you're using the most full power ammunition, you're going to see issues with short stroke and short cycling, which I don't know if that's what happened with the original design, but I can tell you that even with this very honest retro build with the full length rifle system and this barrel length, that you do need to put full power M193 through this. If you try to put like Silver Bear or Tula or something, it'll function, but you'll get short strokes and maybe not lock open. So you want to choose full power ammo if you happen to get one of these retro guns.
Yeah. So when this failed to be super successful in the original testing, this is circa 1965, I believe.
Okay.
They then went on and designed the carbine length gas system, and what came next was the Colt Commando, the XM177, the whole genesis of the M4 carbine.
Which is kind of neat. So what you see going on here is you saw them experimenting with ideas. The guys are like, you know, that rifle's a little long. It's a bit of a pike. Let's get a carbine. Right. And then, you know, the M16 was still early in its development cycle by the grand scheme of things at that point.
Yeah.
And these ideas of gas systems, dwell time, how much gas pressure has to be in the system, was a learning curve. And this was that first experiment that got them to the point to where we needed to be to make it reliable.
Yeah.
So now these were never used in combat. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they made more than double-digit numbers.
Really?
Like that.
Okay.
And they did them in a couple different versions. There are a couple other features on here. The bayonet lug has been ground off.
Yep.
Which it originally would have been, because without the barrel, you can't put the bayonet on there anyway.
True.
And then these guns do not have a deflector, but they do have a forward assist.
Yes.
There were several different versions of the 605. There was a 605A, there was a 605B. The A, let's see. I'm going to get these numbers back.
It's tricky,
so I'm actually going to entirely leave that out.
Good idea.
Probably the most common version you see actually had the mounting block for a forward assist, but had it milled off of the forging in production.
Yeah, so we've got a teardrop on these, but those were just cut and then milled, and it was a flat at that point.
And they did it both ways. And the reason they had these the milled off ones is Colt at the time was doing a contract of guns for the Air Force, who didn't want the forward assist, but they ran short of forgings that didn't have forward assist. So they got like a variance from the Air Force to do this sort of forging, but then mill off the front sight, or the forward assist block. And a couple of those got built into 605s. However, they also built a couple of 605s in exactly this configuration. And I believe they also built a couple of them in the standard Air Force no forward assist.
Complete flat side.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the Air Force really wanted no forward assist to the point where it was milled off. Like, we seriously don't want that thing on our gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is kind of where I'm at with it at InRange. But that's a whole other topic, isn't it? But that really does speak to it being an experimental rifle, in that you see flat sides, you see some with teardrops, you see some with it milled off, and this whole idea of like, well, what's the right thing to do with this gun?
Yeah.
But in that regard, for handling, they are standard M16 sights. You got the standard front sight, standard rear sight. I actually think these era sights are actually preferable to the A2. They make more sense in the field. They don't have that elevation adjust, which is something you're going to accidentally bump anyway. And the windage can be adjusted, but you need to use a bullet. I think when we went away from the M16 and M16A1 sights to the A2, except for the KD range, it was a mistake.
Okay.
In my opinion. But so other than that, you've got a full-length rifle sighting system, so they should be sufficiently accurate, like shooting any other rifle.
Exactly. Bushmaster would try and chase this idea decades later, and what, 20 years ago, something like that?
The dissipator.
With the dissipator, yeah, where they used a mid-length gas system. And the other thing they did is they put a real heavy barrel in those things.
Yeah, they did.
Where these have the same sort of pencil lightweight barrel that the early 16 tab.
I gotta say, this little shorter barrel here, it is handy.
It is.
It is handy. So we're gonna run this through a bunch of stages today. We're gonna report back to you how the Brownells Colt 605 reproduction runs under the clock and how it handles for us. You're planning to use this at Desert Brutality, I think.
Yes, this rifle right here is going to be my Desert Brutality rifle this year.
Cool.
So this will be a good bit of break-in for me.
Yeah, practice too. It's a good idea. All right, stay tuned. So this would be stage 3. You start here in this circle, and there are 2 steel targets downrange at approximately 125 yards and 1 spinner target. From here, offhand only, meaning standing offhand, you shoot both the static steel targets with 1 hit each. Then you move to the first cone. And from this cone, you hit the steel targets with 1 hit each, offhand only. You do that to cones 2, 3, and 4. At the 4th cone, after you hit the 2 static steel, you can spin the spinner freestyle. So you can do it offhand, prone, kneeling, whatever you want to do. You've got 120 seconds to do it.
Time.
Is it over?
No.
Wow,
5.
that's hard.
Make unready.
All right, so we are both tied exactly the same score because we both failed.
Yes.
Yeah, you said I was going to spin it. I did not.
This is like the first time you've ever not spun a spinner.
Yeah, well, the part time on this is 120, which is a little bit on the short side. The offhand part wasn't really a problem. I used the hasty spin because I could, but I don't think it mattered that much. It helps a little bit with a harder trigger pull. What happened on the spinner was these are A1 sights, but the light conditions with the sun at 2 o'clock and the dust made it very hard for me to see the spinner, not only engage it, but actually see where it was in its spin cycle.
Yeah, I've had that happen as well.
Yeah, so I lost track of it a couple times. In fact, I don't know if on the video you can tell, I looked over the gun and got back on the gun, and by the time you do that, you're losing the spinner.
Yeah.
So if you're looking off your sights to engage the spinner, you're probably not spinning the spinner.
Yeah.
I also think that even though we're using full M193, a shorter barrel length on this and 5.56 at 50 yards, you kind of need to double tap the spinner target plates.
Yeah, you really do. This is where 308 or at least 7.62x39 really helps for this kind of target. It's hard with 5.56. I usually don't. In fact, it's pretty rare for me to actually spin a 5.56. I think really the only time I have was with that Desert Brutality last year with my FAMAS, which was in large part because I had a bipod.
Oh, true.
I was able to get that thing really drilled in, and I don't remember now, but I may well have been able to tap it.
Yeah, I think we both got close.
I got really close. I think if I'd had about 10 more rounds and 5 more rounds and 10 more seconds, I think I probably could have done it. I was really close at the end. Overall, I like it. This was literally the first time I have fired this rifle.
Yes.
You came out a couple days ago to zero it for me.
I did zero both these guns to make sure that they had a zero.
Zeroed, great. Thank you.
Yep,
Also, thank you for doing center hold for me and not your freaking 6 o'clock hold.
I zeroed him with a center of mass, yes.
I was very happy with being able to pick up and make hits. In fact, I made hits better than I was expecting on the spinner. I was kind of tentative and very careful at first with the static targets just because never used the gun before. I want to make sure, especially at the beginning, make sure that I get a good sight picture and a good trigger press, because if the zero's not exactly where I'm expecting, I have to have all those elements good to figure out where I need to hold.
Yes, yes.
So, I like the thing. So far, despite not spinning the freaking stupid impossible spinner,
I have to say, when I did zero these, the guns, both these guns came out of the box shooting low and left.
Okay.
So that's interesting. I just got this windage zeroed and got the elevation right, and there was no issue in zeroing it. They were really close. They were close. They just needed a little tweaking.
But 20s are exactly the sort of thing.
Exactly. So I'm not gonna. The Brownells mag worked fine. I used it, but they're tight and new, and so this comes with the gun. You're gonna buy more. You could buy more from Brownells, or you can look for surplus USGI mags.
Yeah.
So, but either one worked. So, anyways, that was stage 3 technically at the match, but our first stage.
Yep.
And we're both tied because we both failed.
Yeah.
So let's see how we do on the next 3.